All right, here we go. Oops, I'm trying a little experiment here. Oops, not working very well yet. So I'm going to try to put a camera right on the build plate here. I moved the print way back. So theoretically, let's go zoom in. Zoom in. There we go. All right, so somebody asked about TPU on the K1, and I thought I had tried it, but then I realized it was TPE, and it came out. I did a Benchy in TPE, I guess it was. I didn't realize till today, even though I printed it a couple weeks ago, that it was TPE, not TPU. Mislabeled, weird. But the TPU I printed later came out much stiffer. This thing is way out of focus, but hopefully it'll come into focus. And I also, so it was under extruding. So I already tried this once, and it was under extruding excessively. And then I looked down at the display, and it said 220 degrees. And I said, what the hell? So I am having this definite issue with the Creality slicer. I assume it's the slicer. Setting temperature settings in the slicer, and then the G code doesn't match. It's weird, and so I'm actually having to go into the G code and edit the M104s and M109s, and it's actually on this one, it does some sort of a variable. I'm not sure exactly how that works, but anyway, so I looked down and it was at 220 degrees, and I wanted it at 240 or 245. I had set it at. And I forgot to go into the G code and do it manually after I set it. And so it turned out it was greatly under extruding, and I saw the temperature and I was like, oh, duh. And so I went back and I resliced it. And then I was looking at the speed numbers. It's doing the standard settings for it, infill, like 500 millimeters a second for infill. That seems crazy on the fine setting. I'm like, how can that be right? And so anyway, so I'm like, all right, forget that. It obviously doesn't work. I'm going to slow it down. So I sliced it for like maximum speed 300, and like the high detail, like the better surfaces is like 200, and the first like 100 maybe, and first and last layers. And so then I get out here and I go load it up, and I'm getting everything ready to go. And I realized that I hadn't put the spool on the spool rod. And so for all I know, it had all kinds of resistance, and that's why it was under extruding. So that said, now we have the benefit of not only a slice with the proper temperature and slowed down to a little more realistic speeds, but also unrestricted the filament feed, duh. And we'll see how this goes. And it may be the case that if I left it at 500 millimeters a second infill, it might have been fine. And if this one comes out really nice, I'll have to revert to the factory settings. And boy, I tell you, that's already looking perfect. Holy cow, that was all it was. Like, it had to be is that I had, well, not necessarily all it was. Could have been the other issues too. But wow, what a difference now. I don't know if I can, I was trying to, yeah, there we go. I can, not really low enough yet. Once the floor lowers a little bit, I think I'll be able to see it a little better. Probably some augmented lighting wouldn't hurt, eh? I am part Canadian. The power cord doesn't like that. Or it's not the power cord, it's the headphone cord. All right, so there we go. That's the angle. Zooming back off a little bit. I may be extra zoomed in, but once the hot end's out of the way, I think it'll be really good position. And the focus I wish was better, but again, once the hot end is out of the way, maybe. So it'll be interesting to see. Now, I think it said like an hour. Did it say an hour? I did tell it to go slow, and it's the fine setting, so there's 8 top layers and 8 bottom layers. So that is a lot of printing. So this might actually take, it's funny that I'm complaining about a print taking an hour, like I'm immediately spoiled and have full expectations of instant gratification. now that I have this Core XY / input shaping setup. Extremely spoiled right now. Almost wishing I did something more interesting than a Benchy right here, but it's Benchy's a Benchy, and if it's a demo video, then there we go. It's a good demo. So take a break and talk for a minute and watch the old print, and it's Miller time. I got to turn up the speed on this thing. It's too perfect. I was so undersold by the last attempt where I forgot to put the spool on the spool holder. Duh. This one looks to be printing very nicely. I believe with the TPU failed print, I did not have the. I believe it was not restricted, so that I think was because TPU was so soft. I'm sorry, the TPE was so soft. And this is way better. Interestingly, though, because I've printed used that TPE for prototypes for prototypes of intended to be silicone parts, and not nearly as stretchy as silicone. Like silicone's like easily 10 times as stretchable as that. And I know that in material science there's no such word as stretchable. So we could talk about elongation at break, and we could talk about tensile strength, tensile strength, and yield strength, and say elongation. I'm not doing any of that. I'm just saying, in real world terms, if you hold a strip of it between your thumb and finger, and you pull on a piece of silicone, for the most part, they can vary in diameters, but it's much more like a rubber band where you can stretch it to 5 times its length easily. Whereas this stuff, the TPE, you're lucky to stretch it twice its length, I bet. And the TPU, you can barely stretch that stuff at all. Well, I shouldn't say that. I could, I'm sure if I was strong enough if I got a small enough piece, because I'm trying to pull on a strip that I printed, and it's like 2 inches wide and it's 1/16 of an inch thick. So it's like trying to pull apart a V belt. Uh, but is that's not failing, is it? No, it looks good. To my eye on the screen, it looks kind of like it's failing, but in real IRL, as the kids say, it looks great. Could keep getting closer to it. I think another color would be nicer, and I have the other TPU I have is a gray, and I was going to do that instead, but it was already loaded into the other printer, and I guess I was just being lazy. I really didn't have too much of a preference, black or gray, but and black doesn't do much on camera, that's for sure. It just looks like a shiny, chewed piece of gum. But to the eyeball, like if I could show you what my eyeballs see right now, it's like super clean. Let me see if I can reposition it briefly just to show that. let's see, what can I find to shim that camera? Missing the top. What do I need? I need to go up a ½ inch. What do I have? It's a ½ inch shim. This guy. Horrible choice. But it's about the right size. The spring is going to... I got this. Still could use a little more elevation. What else I got? You'd think I'd have a box of shims around. I may have to put that on my list of things to do. It's a little long. Ah, point for the non-bed slingers. Try that with your bed slinger. Put your phone on your print bed. Forget that. That I think is looking pretty good, considering super high speed. It looks like there's a little bit of an overhang down low on the what do you call that? The bow. What do they call that ridge on the bow? Bow ridge, maybe. A little wavy there, but like the surface finish is pretty nice. That's the thing about the Benchy. That's a tricky spot to print, and that's how it's a good test. I don't think I have another Benchy right here too. No, yeah. So here's this was a PLA on my C10 on my Ender 3 S1 Pro that had some issues with under extrusion on PLA when it was new to me. But it stuck. But this one I got the area was pretty good. Although you can see the under extrusion for whatever reason there. Oh, that's nice. All right, I think she's cooled off enough, hopefully, to come off the bed without tearing the bottom off. Let's try the old plastic spatula. Nailed it. Some spider webbing, no big surprise. This little pipe here came out nice. I'm not reading Benchy on there too easily, but it's tough to see sometimes. Well, bottom layer is nice. Look at that. Yeah, the bow is a little rough. A little spider webbing. Chimney's pretty good. Not great. We've done worse. But hey, that was really high speed. So there you go. I had it at 300 millimeters a second, and the slicer stock settings are 500. So anyway, yeah, I got to squish it. You got to do the obligatory squishing of the part. Although this stuff's pretty freaking stiff, to be honest. I'll fold her up. She'll come back. So I mean that, and there's like no interlayer adhesion issues here. This is a solid part. I did put it very hot. What did I do? 245, I think, 250. That's very hot. And you know what? I think I'm actually going to run it again, but with the TPU. Call me crazy. I'm doing that right now. But I'm going to stop this video and then do that. And I'll see you next time.